fence in Queens is dividing a community in more ways than one. Neighbors say it's blocking parking spaces and a sidewalk on a residential street between Astoria and East Elmhurst. But as Elle McLogan found out, the man who installed it says the fence is sending a message.
And let's just say that message has been signed, sealed, and delivered. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Sean, and today I am bringing you a well-anticipated update on the story of a Queens man who essentially outsmarted New York City Democrats that thought that they were going to scam him by erecting a fence on what the city told him was his property when somebody slipped and fell on the sidewalk in front of his place of business. Now, for those of you who are unaware, the rules in the city of New York are as follows, and it may be similar where you guys happen to live. Typically, maintenance of your sidewalk is on the person who owns the property that is adjacent to the sidewalk. So if you have a building or a house, you have to make sure that people aren't going to trip and fall, and you can be fined for not doing so. However, when it comes to liability issues like a lawsuit, a lot of times what ends up happening, because the city has that enforcement mechanism component of their duty, is that you can sue both the city and the property owner if you were to slip and fall. But in this particular case, as discussed in a previous video, the city of New York said, no, your property line actually extends far into the street, so technically 100% of the liability for anybody who slips and falls is on you, and this was a way for the city of New York to essentially escape what would have been a maximum settlement somewhere in the range of $20,000 to $40,000. Well, this man decided to respond with an absolutely devastating counter by putting up a fence on what the city told him was 100% his property and responsibility, and then hilarity ended up ensuing, and that's what we're going to get into today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
Costa Constantinidis says his leafy Astoria Heights neighborhood got an unwelcome surprise made of metal.
I've never seen a fence in all my years drilled into a New York City public street. It seems a little odd.
The former city council member says the chain link fence appeared suddenly on 19th Road, wrapping the sidewalk and extending into the roadway.
We've lost 10 parking spaces. We've lost access to a sidewalk.
So first of all, I just want to say the fact that a former member of the New York City Council actually lives in this neighborhood and he is incredibly pissed off by this particular action by this business owner warms my heart to a degree that many of you out there in the audience just can't possibly understand. Now, to be clear, I feel the pain of the people in this neighborhood. 10 parking spaces in the city of New York, that is absolutely crucial. As discussed on this channel, free parking comes from the gods. Free parking in New York City is a divine gift from the heavens above to us little people on this planet, and it should never, in almost any circumstances, be infringed upon. It is our right as people to have it. However, in this particular case, in this particular scenario, I am 100% on the side of the business owner. Now, of course, if you guys will recall from my previous video, which by the way did extraordinarily well on this channel, my second highest viewed video of all time, he was actually given a May 19th deadline by the Department of Transit in order to remove the fence.
I have to May 17th by their order, which is 38 order, to remove the fence. I'm not removing the fence.
Now, this segment came out in the early first week of June, which is when I'm shooting it at this moment in time. So obviously that deadline has been passed, but even more hilariously, as pointed out in my previous video, the Department of Transit realized that he might have a case. So they said that this is the deadline, you have to remove this, but also we have to review the property records because it may be indicative of the fact that this man is right. And guess what? It seems like that's where we're at right now, and the neighbors are angry, this city councilman is angry, but guess what? You served the corrupt empire that is New York City government, so in my humble opinion, you are partly responsible for this, and now you have to deal with the fact that you don't have your free parking in front of this business, because the New York City gangster-style government just got out-gangstered by this business owner, and honestly, nobody is more deserving of it than the Democrats in the city of New York, than the Department of Transit, and all these other agencies that think that they could just get away with this piss poor behavior and they're never going to face the backlash.
On neighborhood Reddit pages, questions swirl around traffic safety.
You can't see around the fence.
Where did it come from? Signage indicates not the city, but the business behind it.
Now, I also want to point out that this guy says, oh, you can't see around the fence, which is just not true. You can see right through the fence, and the reason I know that is because it's a chain link fence, and I do in fact have eyeballs, and they quite literally put a camera on one side of the fence, and guess what you can see? The other side of the fence.
Neighbors here in Astoria Heights want to know, how can a business owner get away with blocking off a city sidewalk? He says it's all because it's actually his property.
I have proof.
Anthony Della Vecchia is a contractor and race car enthusiast who grew up in the neighborhood.
We've been general contractors and builders in Astoria and Queens since the 30s.
So this man right here is our hero, is our person who humiliated the city of New York, humiliated Democrats, and now have all these different various neighbors angry and furious, and he is very likely to profit handsomely from this particular fence. And the thing is, this man, way more intelligent than the folks over in city government, because he apparently knew the entire time the length that his property had extended to, but it was only when New York City decided to mess with him, decided to assign all the liability and fault to him while at the same time trying to take advantage of his property, that he decided to fight back. And again, I've quoted this before, but the trailer for Star Wars Rogue One was in fact accurate. Rebellions are built on hope.
We have hope. Rebellions are built on hope.
And this man bucking the New York City Democratic establishment in this way is representative of that. This is a true patriot, a true hero, and we absolutely love this man, even though, again, parking that is free is divined by the gods. But, you know, whatever. We're going to set that aside because he's teaching New York City a lesson.
He says he's known the sidewalk was on his land since he bought his warehouse in the year 2000.
I decided to put a fence up.
He claims the street, which leads to Rikers Island, had become a magnet for destructive behavior. The final straw, he says, came when a pedestrian tripped on the sidewalk and took him to court.
I have to protect myself so I don't get sued again.
So as you heard right there, and I told you earlier, this man knew the extent of his property. He is defending himself in this particular situation. And again, all of this was spurred on by the city of New York trying to get too aggressive with him.
That woman sued.
The original lawsuit was for us, the city, every one of my corporations. The city refused the lawsuit.
How could they refuse?
They don't own the property.
After that, Della Vecchia built this fence along his property, which blocks off about 10 parking spaces.
Now I got ex-politicians and neighbors that don't even live across the street coming down and saying that they're gonna cut down my fence. We're going to throw garbage over it.
The Department of Transportation, which of course spends all its time getting rid of perfectly usable, drivable lanes in order to put stupid ass bike paths everywhere, blocks wonderful, gracious, of the gods free parking in the city of New York in order to install city bikes, doesn't really have any kind of response to him, because guess what? This man is in the right. He is correct. He is the truth. New York City is the den of lies and vipers and deception, and he is proving that right now by standing up to the city. And guess what? I think he's going to win. I believe in him, and I understand the frustration of the neighbors, but the fact is, in this particular situation, you have to be on the side of the patriot, of America, and against the absolute thuggery that is being put forward time after time from the city of New York. Again, let us hear it from the man himself.
He says he has no plans to heed the city's takedown notice for his $25,000 fence. The Department of Transportation told us the matter is under review.
Either you leave me alone or pay me for it.
So the fact that the Department of Transit in our previous segment got all high and mighty was saying that he needed to take this down by May 19th or else there would be dire consequences. And now all of a sudden when we're into June, after they reviewed his counter argument, which is the property is his, remember that lawsuit where he said the property is mine and not yours and therefore I had all the responsibility for it? Now the Department of Transit has a much weaker statement about how they're reviewing what actions should be taken in this particular case, because they realize that they don't have any case against this guy, in my humble opinion. But the fact that he decided to punctuate this segment by saying either leave me alone, which is what he truly wants, or pay me for it, I think makes perfect sense. It speaks to the soul of the American population, the spirit of 1776, because you have this oppressive government from the New York City Department of Transit that's trying to crack down on him. You have this long train of abuses, and this man has had enough. And guess what? You can fight City Hall. He is fighting City Hall, and it looks like, as of right now, he's definitely winning. New York City tried to play a stupid game, and guess what? They're winning a stupid prize. Now, of course, we talked about in the previous video that this man wants over $1 million for the property that is in question, that is in dispute, that is currently being fenced off. And obviously, New York City doesn't want to pay that. But to be clear to everybody out there in the audience, Astoria is a wealthy area. Properties are incredibly expensive there, and it's not unreasonable for the square footage that they expect him to maintain on behalf of the city, but also absorb all the liability for, again, on behalf of the city, that this is more than reasonable in terms of the market price.
Why am I getting harassed? I have some documentation. Okay? If the city wants the property, pay me market value for it. $3,500, $350, $400 a square foot, that's over $1 million.
He's not asking for anything crazy. He's not making any ridiculous demands. All he wanted to do was to work with the city in a sensible way in order to manage this particular territory. But the city of New York said no. The city of New York said, you're going to take the cost. You're a business. We hate businesses. We're trying to drive you out of the city just like every other productive member of this city. So you got to pay for it. We're not going to deal with it. And haha, sad day for you. But then he totally flipped the script on him, and this is what I absolutely love. The ingenuity of the American people on full display right here. A fence that is shutting down this entire sidewalk, blocking it from everyone, removing parking, pissing off the neighbors, but the neighbors need to redirect their anger at the city of New York, who tried to screw this man over, who, by the way, has been in the community for a very long time. And to that former city councilman, the one who was angry on the segment that's pointing at the fence, who's talking about how the integrity and the beauty of his street has been ruined, you're gonna have to deal with it. Suck it up, Buttercup, because it's over for you. You passed in these rules, you passed in these regulations, you ended up installing these absolute tyrants in all these different departments, or at least you played some role being in New York City government at one point in time. Now you're just gonna have to enjoy it. Now, with all that being said, I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. Are you still on this man's side? Are you for America? Are you for the great glory of our flag and what it stands for? Or are you with the communists over at the Department of Transit? Are you with the city council? Are you with the people that want to deprive you of each and every one of your rights until you're begging them for handouts? This man stood up to them. He deserves all of our cheers and all of our support, and he did so with an attitude that can be really distilled and defined as the New York mindset, and I absolutely love it. And if you disagree with me, you're 100% wrong. But again, let me know your thoughts. All opinions are welcome, but not really, down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about a Queens man taking on City Hall and winning. Till next time.